This is a Taibutha presentation. Welcome to this deep dive. Today we're embarking on an exploration of James Michael's book, The Inner Light of Meditation, a mystical journey beyond silence and unknowing.
Right. And our goal, really, is to unpack the core understanding of meditation and mysticism that James Michael presents here.
We want to sort of extract the essential insights to help you, whether you're maybe just starting out on a meditative journey or looking to, refine your current understanding.
Yeah, exactly. And James Michael's view, it's informed by his own experiences leading meditation, but also quite a bit of reading in the field.
He even includes a further reading list, which is helpful if something specific grabs your attention.
That's right. And what really stands out right from the preface is his intention. He basically says he wrote the book he wishes he had when he started.
Ah, okay. Like a concise summary for beginners or maybe people who already have some questions.
Precisely. Think of it as a roadmap,
Yeah.
a helpful guide.
Okay, let's unpack that roadmap idea a bit. So James really sees this book as a starting point,
Yeah.
foundation.
Yeah, that's the idea. It's meant to give you enough background, enough understanding, so you can then go off and explore areas that really interest you in more depth.
Right, because it's a huge topic.
It is. And he emphasizes that point, says each chapter, even some headings within chapters, could easily be whole books themselves.
Wow, so it really is just a primer then.
Definitely a primer. It gives you a sense of the vast territory he's touching on.
Now, his background is interesting too. You mentioned his experience, but his primary expertise is rooted in the Christian tradition.
That's right. Christian tradition first, with Zen, as he says, a distant second. He looked into other traditions mainly to deepen his grasp of Christian meditation specifically.
Okay, so that's useful context. It suggests the book, while aiming for broadness, might have a subtle lens, maybe, through that Christian viewpoint.
It's likely, yeah. Not necessarily a limitation, but definitely something worth keeping in mind as you read it. Gives you context.
And he mentions Thomas Merton, describes him as his touchstone and lodestone. Merton's a fascinating figure himself.
He is. And the Merton quote James includes is quite revealing, isn't it?
Which one? The one about Buddhism and Christianity.
Yeah. I see no contradiction between Buddhism and Christianity. And also, speaking about his Buddhist brothers and sisters, we are all one already.
That immediately signals a kind of inclusive spirit, doesn't it? Recognizing a unity beyond specific labels.
Absolutely. And then there's this other influence he mentions, which sounds quite significant.
How about that?
The Art of Meditation Global Summit. It was presented by Fleet Mall back in February 2024.
Ah, yes. He mentions finding what was it, over 60 hours of video presentations?
Enlightening, yeah. And he suggests it was maybe even a catalyst for writing this book.
That's really interesting. It brings in very current perspectives from a wide range of experts.
It does. And the fact that James recommends this summit, if you want to go deeper, it really shows how valuable he found it as a resource.
Okay. So it feels like James Michael genuinely tried to create something accessible, drawing on both ancient wisdom and these more contemporary insights.
I think that's fair to say. And he wraps up the preface hoping readers find it engaging and that it helps them find a path, as he puts it, into the mystic.
Into the mystic. That definitely sets a certain tone, moving beyond just technique.
Exactly. It points towards those deeper, more experiential dimensions.
All right, so turning to the book itself, the introduction kicks things off by painting this picture of our noisy, distracted world.
And meditation is presented as this sanctuary of tranquility and insight.
But he stresses it's more than just chilling out, right?
Right. He says it's more than just a tool for relaxation or stress relief. James positions it as a journey into the depths of the self, a chance to connect with the essence of being.
So something much more profound is the aim.
That's the implication. He says the book aims to illuminate the path, looking at its history, the methods, and importantly, the potential experiences.
Okay, so promising a pretty broad overview.
And he touches on that right away, mentioned the historical sweep, Vedic texts, Buddhist traditions, Taoist, Abrahamic.
Showing it's this long-standing human thing, this quest for deeper understanding.
Exactly. And he also brings in the modern forms like transcendental meditation, Zen, mindfulness-based stuff.
Highlighting how these ancient practices have kind of adapted,
Yeah.
for us today.
That adaptation is key, isn't it? Making them relevant and accessible now seems central to the book's purpose.
The intro also flags the exploration of mystical experiences. Cross-tradition, too. Hindu, Buddhist, Christian, Sufi, even indigenous practices.
Yeah, really framing meditation as this potential gateway, to transcendent states of awareness.
And if you think back to the title, A Mystical Journey Beyond Silence and Unknowing, that focus on mystical experiences makes a lot of sense. It seems core to his perspective.
Definitely. He even touches on the importance of the setting the ambience, things like music, chanting, lighting, incense.
Ah, right, as enhancers for that inward journey.
It points to a holistic approach, doesn't it? It's not just mental gymnastics.
Yeah.
It engages the whole person, the senses too.
And of course, he briefly mentions the benefits we often hear about: better mental and physical health, general well-being.
Which is important to acknowledge. Those tangible benefits are often what draw people in initially, right?
True. He also takes a moment to distinguish meditation from other things, like self-hypnosis or just relaxation techniques.
That clarification is super helpful, I think, because there can be confusion.
Definitely. Understanding what it isn't can be just as useful as knowing what it is. Sets the right expectations.
Exactly. So the intro wraps up by encouraging this open-minded journey into the inner light, going beyond silence into unknowing to find that transformative power.
Sets an intriguing stage, for sure.
It does. So, Chapter 1 then dives right into the history and background of meditation, really emphasizing how deeply rooted it is and how varied across cultures.
Okay, kicking off with Hindu traditions, tracing it back to the Vedic texts.
Right, in those early spiritual exercises for understand reality, aiming for enlightenment, he talks about the Upanishads.
And their focus on meditation for attaining knowledge of Brahman. And concepts like yoga, samadhi, that state of deep consciousness.
Yeah, samadhi. The key thing there is how early on meditation was seen as this fundamental path, not just a practice, but a way to grasp existence itself, humanity's big quest, you know.
And the Bhagavad Gita gets a mention too, as a path to union with the divine.
Correct.
Oh.
Then the book shifts to Buddhism, Siddhartha Gautama refining these practices, making them central to enlightenment.
And we get introduced to specific techniques like anapanasati
Breath awareness, yeah.
and vipassana, insight meditation.
Right. And the development of these specific methods in Buddhism, it's a big step in kind of systematizing meditation, offering clear ways to cultivate awareness.
And Zen gets covered, zazen, the seated meditation, aiming for that direct experience.
Exactly. Direct experiential enlightenment. Plus, Tibetan Buddhism has discussed how it integrates Vajrayana, Mahayana, Theravada.
With all those rituals, visualizations, mantras, those more esoteric paths focused on mystical experience.
It really shows the rich variety that can evolve even within one tradition. So many tools to help practitioners shift their consciousness.
Okay, so after Hinduism and Buddhism, where next? Taoism.
Yep, Taoism or Taoism, rooted in texts like the Tao Te Ching and Zhuangzi. Meditation here is about aligning with the Tao, that fundamental principle of the universe.
So connecting inner self with the natural world.
Very much so. James Michael mentions Qigong specifically as a key Taoist practice, cultivating inner energy, harmony with the Tao. It's often a kind of moving meditation.
Interesting. Then the book moves to the Abrahamic traditions: Judaism, Christianity, Islam.
Yeah, showing how these contemplative practices pop up there too. It's not just an Eastern thing.
So like Kabbalistic meditation in Judaism.
Focused on mystical aspects, yeah. And in early Christianity, Lectio Divina, divine reading, and contemplative prayer for connecting with God.
Well, Islam has Sufi meditation, dhikr.
Right, dhikr, the repetition of divine names. All different paths to interconnection within those frameworks.
Wow, okay. He even goes into Greek and Roman philosophy.
Briefly, yeah. Discusses the Stoics, Epictetus, Marcus Aurelius, and their self-examination for virtue and peace. And Neoplatonism, Plotinus, contemplating the one for mystical union.
So it really broadens the scope, showing this contemplative impulse was part of Western history, too.
Definitely. And finally, in this history chapter, he touches on indigenous traditions, shamanic practices using drumming, chanting for altered states.
And Native American vision quests. Solitude, fasting, seeking guidance.
Exactly. It just underlines this desire for deeper meaning through looking inward is, well, pretty universal across cultures, even predating organized religion.
So chapter 1 really lays the groundwork, meditation as this ancient universal pursuit, with every tradition adding its own flavor.
Perfectly put. And chapter 2 then builds on that, looking at modern forms of meditation, how things have evolved for contemporary life.
Okay. Revisiting Hindu practices first, like mantra meditation.
Yep, repeating sounds. Raja Yoga, integrating meditation into its 8 limbs. Kundalini Yoga, focusing on awakening that spiritual energy. And Bhakti meditation, the devotional path.
And you can see how these are often presented now, maybe more streamlined or focused on specific benefits like stress relief.
Exactly. made more accessible. Same pattern when he looks at modern Buddhist meditation.
So Anapanasati and Vipassana still focusing on breath and insight. Zen still about zazen, Tibetan practices with visualizations and mantras.
Right, but he notes how they're often adapted now for retreats, online courses, that sort of thing, making them available outside traditional settings.
That accessibility point feels really key in the modern context. The internet's played a huge role, hasn't it?
Undoubtedly, making these practices reachable for so many more people.
He revisits Taoist meditation too, still focusing on Qigong.
Yeah, integrating breath, movement, visualization, finding that harmony with the Tao in daily life. The movement aspect is a nice contrast to the stillness focus elsewhere.
Then the Abrahamic traditions in the modern day. Kabbalistic meditation still active. Christian practices like the prayer of the heart, Jesus prayer, Lectio Divina, and newer forms like centering prayer.
hmm And Sufi meditation with dik, that rhythmic chanting for closeness to the divine. It shows the continuity, how these paths are still alive.
Okay, then we get into the more distinctly modern stuff. Transcendental meditation, TM.
Right. Silent mantra repetition, aiming for restful alertness.
Mhm.
It's pretty well known for stress reduction, and there's a lot of research on it.
Because of its specific technique and secular approach.
Largely, yes. Which leads nicely into the next section on secular meditation, MBSR, mindfulness-based stress reduction, and MBCT.
Focusing purely on mindfulness, emotional regulation, without the religious baggage. Using body scans, mindful breathing.
Exactly. And these have been huge in bringing meditation benefits into healthcare, education, you name it, reaching a very broad audience.
The chapter also mentions New Age approaches, crystal meditation, guided imagery, sound healing.
Yeah, these often blend elements from different traditions with more contemporary wellness ideas. They appeal to people looking for personalized experiential paths.
And finally, neuroscience-informed meditation, looking at the brain.
Right. How meditation impacts brain structures, like the default mode network, the part that's active when your mind wanders.
And research shows meditation can quiet that down, leading to more presence, less mental noise.
That's the finding, yeah. This scientific validation adds another layer of understanding, another reason people get interested.
So chapter 2 really maps out this incredible diversity of practices available today, something for almost everyone, it seems.
Absolutely. Which leads us to chapter 3, moving towards the core, maybe. The mystical experience, positioned as a profound goal in many traditions.
Okay, how does James define that mystical experience?
He characterizes it as a direct encounter with something transcendent, often marked by feelings of unity, deep peace, heightened awareness, timelessness.
Things that are hard to put into words. Ineffability.
Exactly. And transcending the ego. He notes they can happen spontaneously or through practice, and they're often deeply transformative.
Right. So then he explores this within different traditions, starting with Hinduism.
Highlighting samadhi again, that unified consciousness, the Advaita Vedanta idea of Atman equals Brahman, non-duality, and darshan, that experience of seeing and being seen by the divine.
The core idea being that you're already connected, fundamentally.
Precisely. Hinduism offers these really rich maps of inner experience detailing these ultimate states.
And in Buddhism, what's the focus there?
Nirvana, the end of suffering, realizing ultimate reality. Satori, that sudden enlightenment flash in Zen. And Vipassana, leading to insights about impermanence, non-self.
So liberation from suffering, gaining insight, deconstructing illusions about reality and self.
That's a good summary. Then Taoism views mystical experience as aligning with the Tao through breath, movement, visualization.
And he mentions Wu Wei, effortless action.
Yeah, acting in harmony with the universe's flow, like a surfer riding a wave, totally in sync. It emphasizes that interconnectedness with nature, finding harmony.
Okay. What about the Abrahamic traditions, mystical experience there?
He looks at Jewish mysticism, Kabbalah's focus on divine encounters, Christian mysticism with direct experiences of God, mystical union, and Sufism's path through Dikar and Sima.
Sima, the spiritual dance.
Right, leading to ecstatic connection, divine love, transcending the ego. You see these common threads, union, transcendence.
And the chapter also talks about the impact of these experiences, how they change people.
Yeah, leading to inner peace, clarity, purpose, compassion, shifting beliefs and values profoundly.
Highlighting their transformative power.
Definitely. And finally, James touches on contemporary views, how psychology, neuroscience, philosophy are studying these experiences, trying to understand them, integrate them.
Bridging subjective experience and objective science.
Kind of, yeah. So the chapter really underscores the profound potential within meditation, leading towards these diverse mystical states.
Makes sense. So after exploring the why and the what, Chapter 4 gets practical, looking at method.
Exactly. The techniques, the practices. It starts with mantra meditation again, repeating a sound, word, phrase to focus the mind. Roots in Hinduism, Buddhism.
Using sound and rhythm to focus the mind seems like a common theme.
It really is. Then Lectio Divina is presented that Christian contemplative reading practice. Reading, reflecting, praying, contemplating.
A more devotional, text-based approach within
Ne-
Christianity.
Right. Then the chapter gets into physical postures.
Mm.
Seated positions, lotus, half lotus, on a cushion, chair with straight spine.
Also lying down, supine, standing, even walking meditation.
hmm Outlining the pros and cons of each for stability, relaxation, mindful movement. Posture is surprisingly important, isn't it? For comfort and alertness.
It really is. What else in terms of methods? Sound baths.
Yeah, using vibrations from singing bowls, gongs to induce meditative states. Promotes relaxation, balance.
A very sensory approach, bypassing the need for intense focus sometimes.
Often, yeah. Very effective for some people. Then there's object meditation focusing on a physical thing.
Like a candle flame,
Mm,
or religious icons, symbols, or even just something in nature.
exactly. Using an external point to anchor your attention can be really helpful, especially when you're starting out.
And finally, the chapter suggests integrating methods, combining techniques.
Right. Encouraging experimentation to find what works best for you personally. Build your own practice.
So, Chapter 4 is really the toolkit, lots of practical methods to explore.
Precisely. And following that, Chapter 5 looks at meditation ambience, the environment, which, as you said, he sees as really significant.
Right, starting with the basics: quiet, comfortable space, minimal distractions, maybe adjustable light and temperature, clean, organized.
All those things that help create a sense of peace and focus, our surroundings really do affect our internal state.
Then he dives into sound specifically: instrumental music, nature sounds, ambient stuff with slow tempos.
Yeah, for relaxation. And he makes that interesting point about experiencing music passively, just feeling the vibrations, not analyzing it.
That can be a powerful shift, can't it? Quieting the analytical mind.
Definitely. He even mentions drone sounds, sitar, monochord, organistrum, linking it to Hildegard von Bingen. Even simple frequencies can work.
Drone sounds, that sustained resonance creating spaciousness. Makes sense.
And nature sounds too: water, rain, wind, birds. Meditating outdoors is ideal, he suggests.
Connecting with nature enhances that peace. And he makes that bold claim. What was it?
Sound, when used properly, is the quickest way into the meditative state.
That's quite a statement. Shows how powerful he thinks sound is.
It really does. Then chanting gets covered, repeating sacred sounds, mantras, prayers, focusing the mind, creating unity, often linked to breath.
That rhythmic quality can be very focusing, very moving.
Candles are mentioned too for the warm, calming atmosphere. The flame is a focal point. Scented candles adding another layer.
Creating that sense of sacredness, maybe? Calm focus.
Yeah. And incense follows that theme.
Yeah.
Used traditionally to create sacred space, stimulate senses, frankincense, myrrh, sandalwood.
And smudge sticks, Palo Santo, for ritual purification beforehand.
Right. Using smell, which is such a powerful trigger for memory and mood, to set the stage.
He also suggests incorporating nature elements indoors: plants, stones, water features.
To enhance that connection, foster peace, bringing nature inside.
And finally, meditation tools: cushions, mats, benches for physical support.
And rosary or mala beads for counting mantras, acting as tactile anchors for focus.
So these tools help with comfort and concentration, making the practice easier to sustain.
Exactly. The chapter wraps up by encouraging you to experiment, combine these elements to find what you prefer, what supports your practice best.
Personalization again. So Chapter 5 really drives home that shaping your environment can significantly deepen the whole experience.
Absolutely. Which brings us to Chapter 6, the benefits of meditation, covering that wide range, recognized by tradition and, increasingly, science.
Okay, starting with mental benefits. Enhanced concentration, focus, stress reduction, obviously.
Improved emotional regulation, less anxiety and depression, even potentially more creativity. It's quite a list for mental well-being.
It really shows the broad impact on our inner landscape, tackling common modern stresses.
Then the physical benefits: lower blood pressure, better sleep, reduced inflammation, maybe even boosted immune function.
It's amazing how a mental practice impacts the body so directly.
That mind-body connection is clearer all the time, isn't it? Meditation is a prime example.
Then the spiritual benefits: deeper connection to a higher power or your inner self, more insight, intuition, expanded awareness.
And that core feeling of inner peace and contentment This gets to the heart of it for many people that search for meaning and connection.
Right. The chapter also covers cognitive benefits, better memory, decision-making.
Yeah, by quieting the mental chatter and improving focus, it seems to sharpen those cognitive skills,
And longevity and aging are mentioned. Potential links there.
possibly through stress reduction, maintaining cognitive function. It's an area of ongoing research, but promising.
And finally, social and interpersonal benefits. More compassion, empathy. He even mentions Taibutha's metta practices here.
Loving kindness, yeah. And better communication skills, too, probably from being more present and attuned.
So the benefits really extend outwards, improving relationships.
Definitely. Chapter 6 paints this compelling picture. Meditation leading to a more balanced, peaceful, fulfilled life across the board.
Okay. So after all that, Chapter 7 clarifies what is not meditation, which seems important to avoid confusion.
Super important. He starts by distinguishing it from self-hypnosis. Hypnosis uses suggestion for specific changes. Meditation observes without judgment, seeks insight, not set outcomes.
So active direction versus receptive observation.
That's the key difference. Then relaxation exercises. They aim for tension relief, sure, but meditation goes deeper, cultivating awareness, presence. Relaxation is often just a byproduct.
Right, relaxation isn't the main goal of meditation itself.
Exactly. Daydreaming is next. Mind wandering passively versus meditation's conscious, mindful presence. It's about the intentionality.
And concentration versus meditation.
Meditation can use concentration focusing on one point, but it can also be broader, more expansive awareness, not just narrow focus.
Okay, what about visualization?
Visualization often creates mental images for specific goals. Meditation is generally more receptive, observing what arises without trying to change it. Active shaping versus passive observation.
And intellectual contemplation, thinking about things.
That's active thinking. Meditation aims to quiet the mind, allowing insights from stillness, not analysis, a different kind of knowing.
James also stresses it's more than just a mental exercise.
Yeah, it's holistic body, breath, mind, spirit, aiming for balance, integration.
And finally, it's not always about transcendence, seeking mystical states.
Right. Many forms emphasize just being present with ordinary everyday life. Groundedness is key.
So Chapter 7 clears up a lot of potential misunderstandings, gives a sharper definition by outlining what it isn't.
Precisely. Which leads into the book's conclusion, embracing the inner light of meditation, kind of bringing it all together.
Reiterating meditation as this profound journey into stillness, presence, wisdom.
Yeah, framing it as a bridge between the known and unknown parts of ourselves,
Yeah.
connecting us to the universe, our inner truths.
And emphasizing how it helps us engage fully with the present, watch thoughts without getting caught up, find calm amidst the chaos.
Right. And cultivating those qualities like compassion, patience, resilience, embracing both the light and the shadow within us.
He stresses that this inner light, our essence, is always there. Meditation just helps us tune back into it.
Reminding us of that inherent connection. It's a message of inherent worth, really.
The book concludes by suggesting meditation as a way of living, more mindfully, fully authentically.
Where silence isn't empty but full. And the unknown isn't scary, but a gateway to understanding, stepping beyond our usual mental stuff.
The final thought being that meditation opens the door to more awareness, peace, meaning, realizing our unity with everything.
A really beautiful summation of the potential.
And he ends with that phrase, pax et lux.
Peace and light. A very fitting end to his exploration.
Okay, so just to quickly summarize our deep dive into James Michael's The Inner Light of Meditation, we've seen how the book offers this concise, yet pretty thorough overview.
Yeah, tracing the history across traditions, looking at modern forms, exploring mystical experiences.
We also covered the practical methods, the importance of ambience, the wide range of benefits.
And that helpful chapter clarifying what meditation isn't.
Right. We really hope this exploration of James Michael's book has maybe sparked some curiosity for you or offered a useful introduction to this whole area of meditation and mysticism.
Definitely. And if any of these ideas resonated, you might want to check out the book itself, The Inner Light of Meditation, A Mystical Journey Beyond Silence and Unknowing.
Or even look into that further reading list he provides if you want to dig deeper into specific topics.
So we'll leave you with a final thought to mull over. James Michaels puts a lot of emphasis on this idea of the inner light. What might that concept mean for you personally in your own search for inner peace or understanding, or maybe even your own journey into the mystic?
Thank you for joining us for this deep dive.